KWEI. Imagine a world where myths aren't just bedtime stories. Every creepy tale you've ever heard, whispered around the kitchen table or a crackling campfire, is lurking out there, waiting to jump out at you. Your neighbor next door? Not just a quirky loner, more like a monster biding its time before it devours you. That beautiful dress? A literal death trap. And the late night bus home? Yeah, it might just be a one-way ticket straight to hell. This isn't fiction. These are legend brought to life. Are you ready to peek behind the curtain of ordinary world and see the horrors hidden in plain sight? Let's start with something close to home. Your neighbor. The cannibal next door. Ever hear stories in your town about a person who wasn't quite human? The kind of person who, if they caught you, well, let's just say you wouldn't make it to the morning news, because he eats people. Yeah, real monster next door vibes. Take the quiet town of Novokuznetsk, for example. A typical Russian city with boxed apartment buildings and grey courtyards where everyone knows each other, or at least they think they do. Alexander Spasivtsev lived in apartment 87. On the surface, he seems unremarkable, average height, skinny build, the kind of guy who kept to himself. People called him weird but harmless. That is, until things start happening behind his door that will haunt this city forever. It began with whispers. Neighbors heard muffled thuds, moans, and oddly enough, smacking sounds at night. Sometimes a foul odor like rotten meat mixed with the bitterness would seep through the hallways. Most people brushed it off as a bad plumbing. I mean, who immediately jumps to cellar kinder, right? A plumber called in to fix a clogged pipe found human remains in the plumbing system. When the police raided Spasivtsev's apartment, they walked straight into a nightmare. Bloodstains soaked into the floorboards, scars of violent struggle gouged in the walls, and in the fridge, neatly packed parcels of human flesh. On the stuff, a pot of soap made from his latest victim. If that wasn't horrifying enough, his mother, Ludmila Spasivtseva, was his accomplice. She lured victims into the apartment, helped dispose of bodies, and even cooked meals from the remains. Neighbors admitted they'd heard screams and smelled decay, but never thought to interfere. Fear, indifference, who knows? By the time anyone cared, it was far too late. Spasivtsev was caught, but his name still sends shivers through Novokuznetsk, and every time you step into your building or exchange a polite note with the person living next door, you can't help but wonder, how well do I really know them? Now, let's jump back to the Victorian era, a time of opulence, elegance, and, well, deadly fashion. Among the most coveted trends of the time was a vibrant shade known as Shell's green. This rich, eye-catching color screamed wealth and status, but beneath its beauty lay a toxic secret. Rumor had it, anyone who wore a green dress might be cursed. You'd gain glamour and prestige, sure, but at the cost of your soul and your life. But the truth was simpler, so no less horrifying. Shell's green contained arsenic, a lethal poison. Every dress dyed with this pigment was a walking chemical weapon. Picture this. A woman slips in her stunning new green gown, twirling her way into the spotlight at a grand ball. But with every step, her body absorbs the poison. The pigment's particles rub off onto her skin and infiltrate her lungs, slowly and methodically killing her. The next morning, she wakes up dizzy, weak, and nauseous, and no one suspects her breathtaking dress is the culprit. And it wasn't just the fashionistas who suffered. Seamstresses, tailors, and even party guests were exposed to the toxic fabric. It wasn't long before journalists began connecting the dots. Headlines screamed, fashion kills as stories of mysterious illnesses and death spread through the papers. This story makes you wonder how far we will go in the name of beauty, and is it really worth sacrificing yourself on the altar of style? There is something about dolls that just feels wrong. The way their eyes seems to follow you, their face is frozen in expression too lifelike to be comforting. Some say the creepiest dolls hold a piece of a soul inside them, and for Russian academic Anatoly Moskvin, that wasn't just a myth, it was his reality. In 2011, police found 26 mummified corpses of young girls in Moskvin's apartment and garage. He had dug up their graves, embalmed the bodies, and transformed them into dolls. Each was dressed in frilly outfits and carefully positioned on furniture around his home. Moskvin called them his daughters and believed he was giving them a second life. His walls were lined with the cemetery photographs, and his journal detailed the gruesome steps of his work. He even created backstories for each of the girls, giving them names and weaving tales about their lives. For Moskvin, these weren't just bodies, they were his family. Declared insane, he was institutionalized, but his story leaves a haunting question. How many monsters walk among us, hiding in plain sight? Let's talk urban legends, specifically the last bus to hell. This story hails from Beijing, where the chilling tale of bus 375 still lingers. On a freezing night, an elderly man and a young guy were waiting for the final bus of the evening. It pulled up, empty except for the driver and a conductor. Seems normal enough until the bus made a stop to pick up 3 passengers. 2 men were supporting a third who looked off. His head drooped and his face was obscured. The 2 standing men were pale, their eyes hollow. Their clothing looked ancient, like something straight out of the Qing dynasty. The bus grew heavy with the knees. Suddenly, the old man accused the younger passenger of stealing his wallet. He demanded they both get off in the next stop to settle things. Once off, the old man confessed, "I just saved your life. Those 3 didn't have feet. They weren't touching the ground." The next morning, bus 375 was found submerged in a reservoir over 60 miles from its intended road. Inside were 3 decomposed bodies, far too decayed from the time that had passed. The fuel tank was filled with blood. What were they? Ghosts? Demons? Or something worse? Each of these tales is a reminder. The world is full of shadows, and sometimes the scariest things are the ones hidden right under your nose. Be vigilant. You never know when the nightmare might be lurking just around the corner. If you made this far, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. And hey, you, the one who's been lurking but hasn't hit subscribe yet, I see you. Go on, fix that now.